Welcome, everyone. This is our podcast, Mormon Impossible True Mormon Mission Chronicles. This is a very special podcast for us because we serve missions for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yes, we're both very passionate about this because we recognize that a lot of people who serve missions for the church have no idea really what they're getting into. And so we wanted to make a podcast where we can share true stories so that Mormons really know what they're getting into when they dedicate their entire life to the church for up to 2 years.
Absolutely. I think this is very important because not only do members not really know all the details, but non-members have no idea what missionaries are doing. They just see them riding their bikes or walking down the street, and they probably are thinking like, okay, who are these people? What are they doing? And are they going to bother me? Like, let's be
Mhm.
honest, right? But I think this is such a passionate topic of ours because, like I said, we had served before, and we are told during church just a really nice, like uplifting stories. People like to share in sacrament or whatever, and it's really like a faith promoting type thing. And nobody really knows the nitty gritty details of what a mission is like.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Missions can be incredibly, incredibly difficult and can have lasting impacts, negative impacts on people for the rest of their life. And so
Mhm.
that's something that we'll definitely explore. But we'll also talk about the fun aspects. So maybe we
Yep.
should jump right in. Um, I'm going to read a quote from the church's website, the Mormon Church, about missions. It says, "Every member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has a duty to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. However, it is always a choice for someone to serve a full-time mission or not. Young people are especially encouraged to serve missions because it is such a great opportunity for learning, serving, and growing." And I want to say that that's true. It is absolutely a choice. However, in Mormon society, there are really, really big social implications to not serving a mission. Women are told that you must marry someone who served a mission. And
Mhm.
so you kind of become undateable as a man once you go past the age 20 and you haven't served a mission. So it
Yes.
says that it's a choice, but in reality, there is an enormous amount of pressure from the
Yeah.
church and from the society to serve a mission.
Absolutely. And I agree. Like, and it's not just the pressure from like the top leaders, but it's from everybody that you deal with in church society. It is like your neighbors and your friends' parents, and everybody's like, hey, when are you going to go? Oh, have you thought about saving up some money? Different things like that. So, absolutely, I don't think it's a choice as much as people think that it is.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an expectation, and especially for the men in the church. For women, there's a bit more leeway. If you
Hmm.
don't serve, people won't question if you're really serious about being Mormon. They'll just assume you had another reason. But if a guy doesn't go, there is that assumption made.
Yeah,
And
and not
so
only just the assumptions, but I believe that most people will put things in their head and gossip about, oh, why did that person not go? And so you don't want to be the one that's gossiped about, right? When
yeah.
if you don't go on a mission, especially as a man. As a woman, like we said, it really is a choice. And there's a couple
Mhm.
of factors on why someone would go versus not go as a woman, especially back in the day, like when we went.
Yeah. So, right along that same note, how about you share what made you decide to serve a mission, why you wanted to serve?
Yeah, awesome. And we didn't say this, but this is an intro all about me, Tabby. And I wore my awesome missionary tag. I did cover up my name because I am going to make sure that my family's protected because they are very much still in the church. So I just wanted to do that. Just FYI for everybody. If you know me, hello. If you don't, no worries. My name is Tabby. So very interesting fact is that when I was able to serve a mission, women had to be at the age of 21 years old. Men were a 19, so it was a 2 year difference. So when I turned 20, I was like, I don't know, like it was always a thought in the back of my head, but I
Mm-hmm.
never decided actually to go. And then when I turned 21, I was like, no, I'm fine. And then I got closer to 22. It was like probably actually 6 months after 21. And I was doing a bishop's interview. And he said, hey, sister so and so, do you want to serve a mission? And I said, I don't know. I guess so. That could be cool. And so he goes, okay, I want you to go home and pray about it. And
Mm-hmm.
here's some paperwork. So, because this is before the internet was super big, and so you had to fill out the paperwork by
Mm-hmm.
hand. So these kids nowadays, they have it pretty easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I go home and I'm talking to my mom, and she's putting makeup on or something, and I go, Mom, I think I'm going to go on a mission, and she was like, What? It like freaked her out a little bit, I think, but I think she really liked it because I was the first one out of my siblings to even consider
Mm.
it. So I actually went when I was 21, and I hit 22 years old 2 weeks after I left in the MTC. So I was a little bit older than a lot of the women that were on my mission, unless they had been out longer.
Mm-hmm.
So the decision wasn't really like I had always wanted to go. I think it was always in the back of my head because of the whole primary institute seminary, like, hey, let's every member a missionary and stuff. And so I think it was always in the back of my head, but I didn't really consider it until my bishop flat out asked me, hey, do you want to go on a mission? So
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think that, for a lot of people, there's that desire for a long time that builds up and leads to them going, but to think like, oh yeah, there are because that's how it was with me. So
mhm,
to think that some people decide, you know, closer to that
mhm,
date that they left instead of, I
yeah,
decided I think when I was like 9 that I wanted to serve a mission. And so
nice.
that's really interesting.
Yeah, and the
Um,
only other thing I wanted to mention about that was that I was not married and I wasn't dating anyone. And so
hmm,
that was I think still kind of a big thing, but I think it's not as much since they lowered the age of girls. Now they can
yeah.
serve at 19, where it's like, oh, if you're 21 and you're not married, maybe you should serve. So I wonder if my bishop was kind of saying those things in his head without saying it to
Yeah.
me.
That's when my mom served a mission forever ago. That's how it was. She told me that so many of the sister missionaries were there simply because they weren't married yet when they turned 21, and that was really the only reason.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
kind of
that's really
sad, if you think about it, because it's like, oh, well, what else do you have to do with your life? Like, well, yeah, you can live your life, but,
yeah, but
you
in
know,
in Mormonism, women's roles are very strict. Women
yes.
women are expected to serve God and to be a wife and a mother. And
Yep.
so really, you're not married yet, go serve God then.
Yeah,
And
because the majority of women, excuse me, would already be married with
yeah.
probably one or two kids.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So to have a 21-year-old be not married was actually kind of rare in
Yeah,
some ways.
no. Totally. I think that's very common in Mormon couples to get married very, very young. My husband got married at 23 and he was the oldest of his siblings to get married. Like
Wow.
literally
Like,
ranged
oh,
from 18 to 21 and he was 23. So he was like crazy.
wow. And I can't even imagine like my own kids getting married that young. Even 23 sounds way too young
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, it does sound way too young now.
It's crazy.
Okay. So you decided to serve a mission.
Mhm.
Um, and for those of you who don't know, when you first start your mission, you go to the Missionary Training Center or the MTC. And that is where basically you learn what the mission rules are. You're taught basically how to teach the gospel. You practice teaching the gospel with your companion. And a companion, for those of you who don't know, is just another missionary. You're assigned to be with them at all times. You
And
have
it's
to
always
be
the same sex. Like if you're a woman, it's always a
Oh, yeah.
woman.
You
And
have to
if
be
you're
with
a
a
man,
woman.
it's always a man. Yep.
Yeah, and so, yeah, you have to be within sight and sound of that person at all times. You're not ever allowed to be alone except for to go to the bathroom. So it's a bit intense.
Yeah.
Um, and so What was your MTC experience?
Yeah, mine was probably a lot different than the majority of people. I believe the majority of people go to Provo, Utah,
Mhm.
and there, it's like hundreds of people, maybe thousands. I'm not sure because I didn't go there. Funny story is I got called to serve in Brazil. So there is a Brazilian MTC in Sao Paulo, and I was supposed to go there right away. I wasn't supposed to go to the Provo one at all. And my paperwork was filed. I got my call, everything, and my airplane ticket did not come.
Oh,
And
that's weird.
yeah, and so we're just like, okay, what do we do? And literally, like 2 days before, my mom calls the missionary department in Salt Lake City and says, what should we do? My daughter does not have her plane ticket or her visa. So they said, oh,
Wow.
well, if it doesn't come in time, just go to Provo and they'll figure it out when you're down there. So funny,
Wow.
jump ahead, like literally 9 o'clock the night before I was supposed to leave, the doorbell rings and FedEx had dropped off my airplane ticket and visa.
Wow, that's intense.
Yeah, so it was kind of nerve wracking because I was all packed, ready to go to Provo, and then all of a sudden, yay, my visa comes. So, and at the time I thought, oh gosh, God is blessing me because I've been
Yeah.
obedient to prepare for the mission. So,
Yeah.
yay, I get to go to the MTC in Brazil. So in Brazil, it's actually called the CTM, which is funny and different because it's the Centro Treinamento de Missionário. So so that's how it is. But I'll just refer it to as the MTC. And I really liked the MTC. I thought it was fun. It wasn't as big as a Provo one, and everybody was coming to either learn Portuguese or learn how to be missionary. So the locals who were already Brazilian or knew Portuguese would come and then just learn how to be missionary. And then they basically study for 2 weeks and leave. So us who were foreigners, we got to stay for, let's see, I believe it was like 3 months that we were there. It was a
Wow.
time, yeah.
I
And
only stayed 6 weeks to learn
wow,
a new language.
yeah. So it was a while. And it was, great experiences. Funny thing is, I was in a threesome or a trio. So that means I had two other sisters with me. So it was me and then two others.
But
So
Mormons are funny and like to call it a threesome.
yeah, so that's what we called it. And I didn't even put two cents together until 15 years later.
Yeah.
But it was fun. So we actually shared our own room. So it was just the three of us, and we had our own bathroom, which was fantastic.
That does sound fantastic.
Yes, because all the elders, so my husband said that they bathed in this shower room called the Tree of Life. And basically, it's like a pole and it has all the water spigots. And it's like kind of a gym shower in the
Ugh,
Provo MTC. And so, voila, you get to shower with everybody else. So,
that's terrible.
yeah, so it was very nice. So we had the bunk beds, and the most blessed thing that we had in the NTC was a washer and dryer. And that was fantastic. And I did not realize what a blessing that was until I left on my mission or in the field and we had no washer and dryer. So that
Yeah.
was not fun. Other things that I loved about the MTC was just I really liked being able to study the gospel because I was super into the gospel, very obedient person. I love to follow rules. I
Mhm.
didn't like contention at all. I still don't. So that just is not me and my personality. And our teachers in the MTC, they were funny guys. They were both Brazilian and they just come in, had already served missions. They were like a few years older than us. And so it was fun to be able to talk with them and they could speak English very, very well.
Mhm.
I think the food in the MTC was interesting. um, since it was in Brazil, a lot of it was Brazilian style food, but Americanized a little bit. So the pizza in Brazil is not that good.
Okay.
And they always had pizza on, I think it was like a Thursday night, but it was every single Thursday you had the exact same thing. and they didn't have any other food out there. And I was like so sick of that pizza when I left the
I
MTC.
bet.
Like, no. I'm trying to think. Oh, I do have a really funny story about the MTC. So we would do service. Did you guys do service in the MTC? Like,
Um,
especially like clean up a certain area or like do the laundry, like sheets or anything?
I don't remember doing that, but I have blocked out a lot of my missions, so it's
Oh, no.
possible.
Okay, so funny story is they had assigned the sisters to basically there was a bunch of sheets and tablecloths that we had to iron, but there was this giant machine that was like probably the size of my room. And so the three of us would take one sheet and we'd have to feed it through this iron. And it was like a
Wow.
roller, right? So we would like press it and as it was rolling through. So we didn't know how to do this. And, we talked to the janitor guy who was super cool. And he said, okay, sisters, this is how you do it, and so he's showing us. So we're like, okay, yeah, we got this, no big deal. And the elders in our district were out sweeping floors in other places. So, of course, the sisters get stuck with the laundry, right?
Of
Typical.
course.
But anyway, as we're feeding one through, it starts to smell. And we're like, what is that smell? It sounds like
Oh
burning.
no.
Yeah. So we had to emergency stop the thing. There was like a button on the side. We pull it out, and the sheet had gone like brown black.
Oh
Like we had
no.
burned the sheet. So we were like, oh my gosh. So we had to like crawl over to the janitor and be like, we're so sorry that we destroyed this. So we were
Well,
always known. Yeah.
that's what happens when the church tries to cut corners on costs and tries to make the missionaries do that.
Yeah. Well,
Definitely should have had someone who was trained doing that. That was not your fault.
yeah, and so, we were always called like the burning sisters or something like
Oh my
that, like
gosh.
something dumb and weird. But yeah, so one more funny story. When the first day that we arrived, we got off the plane, we waited for like a whole bunch of groups to come together. We boarded a bus and we drove to the MTC, which was probably a good like hour and a half from the
Mhm.
airport. So we get there and all of the missionaries come together in like the gym and they were like telling us all the rules and everything. And I'm no joke, like the first counselor of the MTC presidency, because our president was American, and then the first counselor and his wife were Brazilian. And he goes, all right, missionaries, and super straight face, he says, if you are bad, on top of the MTC is a giant carton of water and it's full of piranhas. And if you are bad, we're going to put you in there.
Oh my
And I
god.
was like, wait, did he just say that?
Wow.
And I was so shocked that I was like, I may be a little gullible. And I was like, is that true?
That's
So just some weird like humor, right? And I'm just like,
yeah. That's
hey, this
hilarious.
is what we're going for. So yeah, that was most of my MTC.
Well, I'm glad that you had a good experience. I know that the MTC can be really difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it's always nice when someone has a great experience in the MTC.
Yeah.
Okay, so after you leave the MTC, you travel to your mission. And for those of you who don't know, your first companion is called your trainer, and they kind of just, I guess, finish training you to be a missionary. A lot of missions have specific rules, so their job is to teach you what the mission specific rules are and kind of
Mm.
help you learn how to be a real missionary, I
Mhm.
guess, and help you
Yeah.
continue learning a language. And so, what was your experience with your trainer?
Yeah, it's very interesting because people have a whole bunch of different experiences. They're kind, they're
Mhm.
sweet, they're loving. They really try hard to teach their companion and go bend over backwards kind of stuff. My
Mhm.
trainer was the complete opposite, unfortunately.
Mm.
And weird thing is that there was only two sisters that were going into my mission. One of them was one of my companions in the MTC. My other one had gone to a different mission. I was in the Sao Paulo North mission, by the way, and there was two trainers. So, two come in, there's two trainers, and both of the trainers were from my high school.
Oh.
So I knew them, and one of them was a really good friend of mine, and the other one was a year older. I didn't really know her, just more of an acquaintance. So I got put with the one that was an acquaintance. And I won't say names because I don't want to give a bad impression of maybe somebody will know her.
Yeah.
But she was absolutely horrible to me.
Mm.
And it was very, very difficult. So after having such a pleasant, awesome experience in the MTC, to be getting put with someone who I was the only American companion that she ever had. And so she didn't like that I didn't know the language at all.
Mm.
She was very harsh on she walked so fast. I don't know if you were like that. So when you're in the MTC, especially like for 3 months, you're sitting almost all day long.
Yeah.
You have like maybe an hour for exercise. Some of the days, it's not every day. And so you are just not used to exercising at all. And when you're a missionary, you're like booking it to all of the
Yep.
appointments and, oh, I got to catch that bus if you got to go really far, or just, walk, walk, walk. That was our mission. We walked or
Mhm.
took the bus, but it was expensive. So, well, not expensive, but we'll talk about that another time. So, when I got there, she didn't wait for me. She just like, come on, sister, you got to pick it up, and so it was also interesting because my first area, we opened the area. So what that means for you that don't know, they take out whatever companionship is there and they put in the opposite gender. So the elders left our specific area, and we as the sisters came in. So we ended up going to the elders' apartment, and let me tell you how absolutely disgusting it was. Like, the floors were gross. There were dirty dishes in the sink. I
I
mean,
knew all of that before you said it. You said elders apartment. I was like, oh no, I'm sure it was so disgusting.
yeah, it was in the bathroom. Oh, like we ended up having to clean it the first day. And then, so there were 3 rooms. We rented a house. And for those that don't know, in Brazil and I think other third world countries, where the garage is like a gate. And
Mhm.
so you have to have a key to open the gate, and then you go in to do the door. So when you're actually like knocking on doors, you clap in Brazil. So
Mhm.
it's like you'll clap and then someone will be like, come to the door. And so it's interesting because you clap and then like 4 people in different houses will look to see if you're
Yeah.
at their door or not. So anyway, that was weird for me. Like, I did not know that that was going to be a thing. So I was like, okay, I feel like I'm like in prison because I'm getting locked in at night, right? But it was
Mhm.
safety. There were bars on all the windows, and that's normal. Like, pretty much everybody has that.
Mhm.
So we go in, and one room was for studying, then the kitchen, bathroom, and then our bedroom. So the very first night was very hard for me because I would hear all these scurrying noises, and I thought for myself, oh my gosh, like what is in our house? I
Yeah.
never figured out what that was that first night. But let me tell you, a couple weeks into it, I woke up with cockroaches all over me one night. And yeah,
Ugh. No, I
I
would
hate
not
those
have
things.
been okay with that.
Yeah, and every morning in the bathroom there'd be a cockroach there. And these
Mhm.
cockroaches are huge,
Yeah.
right? They're
South
not,
American cockroaches are gigantic.
yes, and their shells are as hard as ever. So we would
And they can
actually,
fly. So
and
they're
they can,
terrifying.
yeah. So we would actually take a hammer to try to kill them because it was easier. Like you try a shoe, but they were so hard you could not kill those
Yeah.
suckers. So that was crazy. Yeah. So to this day, cockroaches are not my thing. And unfortunately, I live in South Carolina, so
Mhm.
I do see them, but knock on wood, like we don't have any in our house. So
That's good.
once you have an infestation in Brazil, though, you cannot get rid of cockroaches because I just don't think that they have the kind of pest control that we have here. And so
Mhm.
nobody even cares. So, yeah. So we had a dirty apartment. That was horrible. And my trainer didn't really talk to me. And the bummer thing that was one of our mission rules, right? Because you said how every mission has different rules.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission president thought it would be a very wonderful idea to actually split up the companions. Now, remember, this was like not allowed, right? You can't go without your companion.
Mm-hmm.
But he would split us up and he would have each of us go with a different member of the ward.
Hmm.
So I guess that he was trying to make the work happen faster or contact more people. I mean, what is your thought on that?
That's yeah, no. I mean, I've heard of people doing that when there are young people getting ready to go on a mission. Maybe they'll do that. Like I did that before my mission with the sisters. I like would
But
go
they
with
were
one.
together, right?
Well, I guess it was
Or
just because I was going on this mission and I have an identical twin who is also about to go on a mission. And so
ah,
we would just one would go with one and then I would go with the other. So I've heard of that happening, but not as like a regular practice. It was like a exception type thing. So that's kind of weird to be splitting up companionships like that. Because yeah, they really emphasize you need to be with your companion at all times because it will keep you safe. And so
yep.
there was this idea of you're going to be extra tempted as a missionary. Satan's going to work extra hard to tempt you. And so your companion being with you will make sure you won't break the rules. So super
Exactly.
weird that they would separate you from your companion.
Yeah, so every day we would go out and we would separate, and then we'd come together for lunch, and then we'd go out and we'd separate again, and then we'd come back for sometime in the evening. And that was really,
That's
really hard for me
so
because
she wasn't training you. She wasn't
she
helping
was
you in lessons. She wasn't teaching you or
it was
Portuguese. Like,
Portuguese, yeah.
sorry, I served Spanish, so
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. Like, she was
Exactly.
supposed to be teaching you how to be a missionary, and that's not a member's job. Like, that's
Yeah.
weird.
And it was just so difficult because I did not know the language, right? Like
Mhm.
I was there and I was like, oh yeah, I know the language, no problem. But then the minute you get out in the field is what they call it, right? The people start talking and it's like, and
So
I'm
fast, yeah.
like, what are they saying? Like, what? So the only things that I could do was like say a prayer for somebody and then like
Mhm.
sing a hymn because
Mhm.
I could not converse with somebody. I had no idea what they were saying to me, and I knew very little words that I couldn't like even convey a testimony very well. I could do like the minimal testimony. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I imagine that that was very isolating because you're also not allowed
Yeah.
to talk to your family. And
No.
so your
Yeah.
companion basically essentially is socially abandoning you. So
Yeah.
that must have been very
It
culture shock and isolation all at
Yes.
once.
Yeah, the culture shock was tremendous, right? Because I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, it's gonna be like the NTC. There's always gonna be all these nice people around me," right? But, one thing they don't really talk about in the NTC is the amount of rejection that you get and how to deal
Mhm.
with that.
Yeah.
So, even though I was with a member and, she was like probably in the young women's, I can't remember if she was 14 or 16 because we had two sisters going with us. So one would have one and the other would have the
Oh,
other.
interesting. So it wasn't even like an adult, it was
No,
a
yeah, they were
teenager.
the teenagers.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it was crazy.
That seems super irresponsible from of your mission president.
Yeah. And
And I'm pretty sure mission rules are now that you have to be at least 16 to do that, so
yeah, so I believe that they have changed that.
okay.
It was, yeah. And the other problem in this area is that the bishop loved the elders so much that he did not
Mm,
like the sisters. And
that
he,
sounds about right.
yeah, so he, I don't want to say anything super negative, but he kind of thought the priesthood was better than
Mhm.
a woman. So, because he
Yeah, it
had
doesn't
that
surprise me.
power, yeah, since he had that power over us, like he had this authority, even though we had the mantle, they say it's like a mantle of a missionary, that we had the spirit with us, that we knew exactly who we were supposed to teach and how to teach. He thought he was better than us. So that was really difficult. So,
I should interject for those of you who don't know, the priesthood is in
mm,
Mormonism is just like God's power on earth and people have the priesthood, and that's how they perform baptisms and marriages. It's through the priesthood, and only men are allowed to
Mhm.
hold to the priesthood to do those ordinances, is what they're called.
Mhm.
Like, so that's what she was talking about. Is her bishop thought that having the priesthood was important in a missionary, and so after the male missionaries left,
Mhm.
he was sexist.
Yes, very much. So, and I didn't quite understand as much. And I remember hearing my companion say a couple of things like, "Oh, that bishop," but
Mhm.
my companion also did not really talk to me even when we were together. Or, we have in the morning, we have a very strict routine. We wake up,
Mhm.
we pray, we go to the bathroom, we get ready for the day, we eat our breakfast, and then we start studying. And we have our personal study, and then we have our language study if you're foreign, and then you have your companion study, and then you leave the apartment or house, and then you start your work day. So when we were doing companion study, she would help me occasionally, but it wasn't
Mm.
every single day like you're supposed to have it. She would
Wow.
go on her bed and like write letters to her boyfriend,
Oh,
which
wow.
you should never do that except on your P day, which is short for preparation day, which is
Yeah.
once a week. So she was breaking those rules. Actually, two rules, right? Like writing
Yeah.
her boyfriend and not helping her companion. So,
Yeah. And breaking mission rules is a huge deal. Like, you are told over and over to be exactly obedient. And
mhm.
basically, if you're not exactly obedient as a missionary, it's assumed you won't be successful, you won't have the spirit, and the
You won't be
people you could have
blessed.
saved will not get the gospel, and it will be your fault. So it's like a huge deal if you're disobedient
Mhm.
to the missionaries. And I can only imagine what what that must have done to your
Yeah.
companion to know, like, oh, I'm being this disobedient missionary. And
I mean,
I
really,
just imagine she was struggling too.
yeah. I mean, that was really the only thing technically that she was breaking the rules of, but it was hard because she's like, we called our trainers mothers, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then, so if you're a trainer, then the person you're training is called your baby in my
Mhm.
mission. That's how we
Yeah,
did
in
it,
my mission, the same.
The
Yeah.
weirdest like talk, right? And lingo.
Yeah.
So my mother was supposed to be teaching me, and she failed to do that on a number of occasions. So what happened was day after day, I started to get super depressed and
Mhm.
very lonely. I mean, like you said, I was in
Yeah.
culture shock, and I can't even explain. Like I think back and I'm like, wow, like nobody should go through that.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able to communicate with my family either. Like you said, do you want to explain the communication in like
Yeah, so
back in the day?
you're not allowed to, call home or write home. You have a very specific time you can. And when I went, it was email.
Mhm. Yeah,
Was
we
it
can
email with
email.
you? So you could
Mhm.
email, but you only had, like, an hour each week to email.
Yeah, because we had
Um,
to go physically to an internet
and yeah,
cafe, spend money, and we had like I think it was 45 minutes to an hour based on
yeah,
like the amount of time and money we could spend. So yeah, it was very, very little. And then also Mormon missionaries cannot call home except for on Christmas Day or Mother's Day. And
yeah,
so I was feeling very, very homesick. And I really just wanted to hear my mom's voice. Like
yeah,
my mom was everything to me. She, was my best friend. Like I told her everything. We were just, I was a good kid. And so she was cool. So the fact that I could not talk to her was
yeah,
just making me go crazy inside. I just wanted to hear her voice.
yeah, and that's just ridiculous to not let an adult
Yeah, because I
decide
was
who they wanna
22
call.
years old, right?
Yeah,
And like
pretty
I get that
ridiculous.
it was expensive, right? Because cell phones were just starting to come around. Again, it was like 2004 in a third world country.
Yeah,
So some people had cell phones, but we had to do calling cards. It's still very, very expensive to call home.
mhm.
And
But
who knows?
the church isn't paying you to go on a mission. Like, typically people pay for their own missions. So the
Yes.
church should absolutely worry less about the money since they're
Yeah.
not footing the bill, and
Yes.
let people call home when they need to.
Yeah. And I believe it has changed. So I think
I think you're correct on
nowadays,
that. Yeah.
yeah, but you can only do it on P days. So it's only
Yeah.
1 day a week.
One
So
day a
let's
week you
say
can call.
something amazing happens and you just want to call home to share the news. You cannot. You still have to wait, which
Yeah.
is very interesting.
Yeah.
So anyway, I started to get very depressed on my in my first area, excuse me, and I would call my mission president because I don't know if you guys did this, but in our mission on I think it was Sundays, we would write a letter to our mission president, like on a form. We'd say
Oh,
like
okay.
how many like our numbers. So it'd be like how many people we contacted, if we had any baptisms scheduled, if we baptized anyone, if we confirmed anyone, and how many like non-active member lessons we did. So we tally up those numbers and then we write a letter about what happened for the week. And then we would turn it in and send it to the office. And then the mission president would read it. And we did this every single week. I have all of my copies of them. So I think the first week I told him that I was miserable and I wanted to go home. So then he gave me permission to call him when I was feeling very depressed. So I did that. I started calling him. It was in the afternoon, like every day. And do you know what I told him? Every day I asked him if I could go home, that this was not something I wanted to do. Now, how old am I? 22 years old.
Yep.
Adults, right? But do you know what he told me? He says, Sister Tabby, if you go home, what will your mother say?
Ugh.
And I was like, you're right. What would my mom say? Like, she would be so disappointed in me. So, I
That's
just was like,
terrible.
yeah, like, what kind of horrible manipulation is that? Right?
Yeah, he as your mission president, it's his job to take care of you in place of your parents while you're on a mission. And to meet your struggles and plea for help with guilting instead
Mhm.
of empathy and love was a huge failure on his part. And we should also say the reason she had to ask permission is because when you get to your mission president takes your passport and you can't leave unless he gives it back to you.
Yeah.
So that just makes it so much worse to think like you were an adult wanting to leave and he wouldn't let you. Like that is
Exactly.
terrible.
It was horrible. So every day, again, I would go to work. I just would get so depressed. I wasn't learning the language very well. And you know what I would write in my journal? I would say, oh, it's my fault. My sister companion, my mother doesn't like me, but it's my fault. So I hope and I pray with my personal prayers that
Mm.
God will change my heart, right? Because everything was my fault, that I will change so I can become a better missionary. And it was just this cycle every single day. And I got to a point where I would be doing my personal study in my room or the other room. She'd be on her bed. I don't know what if she was writing letters or doing something else, and I would cry. I would cry and
Mm.
I would cry every single day, many times different out of the day. And I just got so depressed and lonely that I looked over at the table next to me and I saw that there was a hammer. And it's the same hammer that we would kill the cockroaches with. But
Mm.
I just thought, you know what? If mission president won't let me go home, I'm going to take this hammer and I'm going to hit my knee until it breaks. And if that doesn't work, then I'm going to hit my foot until it breaks. So hopefully I
Ugh.
can go home, right? And I did not share this story with many people. I shared it with my mom, and I did not share it again until I left the church. And then I told my husband, and then I started telling people. So I actually did leave the church in 2018, and we'll go into that another time. But
Yeah.
for almost 15 years, I had kept the story inside. So what I did is I took the hammer and I said, okay, God, I need to go home. I am not happy. And I would hit my knee and I would
Mm.
hit my knee. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. So then I started hitting my foot. And
Mm.
sorry.
It's okay. I get it.
Like the amount of depression was so bad that I hurt myself so I could go. And guess what? I didn't break anything. So I had to keep going. And I told myself, all right, maybe God just wants me to be on this mission. So I never told a soul again. And I just kept working. And it's interesting because in my journal, I wrote down, I did not say exactly what I did, but I
Mhm.
know the date because the next day I wrote that I hurt my foot and I'm limping and I can't move and it's hard to walk.
Ugh.
So, and I just used the excuse that I rolled my ankle or something. And so, but that's the thing. Like, if you get hurt on your mission, most of the time they don't care. You have to still work.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
Yeah, no, I mean, that is such a heartbreaking story, but it is something that is so believable from my experiences on the mission and from my friends' experiences on the mission, that depression is so real. Because when you were describing blaming yourself, that you were asking God to help you, that is not just because you thought that up. That is something that is taught, that
Yeah.
is put into your mind all the time in the church, is you're not good enough. You need to repent.
Hmm.
Every day. You should be repenting every day because you sin every day.
Yeah.
And so, of course, that leads to poor mental health outcomes. And
Mm.
then you add those harmful ideologies to the isolation, to the culture shock, to
Hmm.
the lack of autonomy, to
Yeah.
the feeling of stuckness that you had. And
Yeah.
it's just a recipe for disaster. And
Absolutely.
I'm so glad that you weren't hurt permanently,
Yeah.
that it was something that you were able to heal from, because gosh, it just seems so irresponsible for
Yeah.
the people who were supposed to be taking care of you to let these horrible things happen to you and to not give you the support that you needed.
Yeah. And like, honestly, I think I was scared to tell anyone, like exactly what happened. I think I
Yeah.
was just like, okay, God knows. And if I break my foot, then I'm meant to go home. If I'm not, then okay, I guess I'll keep going. So yeah, one good thing after that is that we had a zone conference, not a zone conference, like a zone meeting with bishop with mission president interviews. So I
Okay.
believe it was like almost every transfer. I believe the mission president would come to your area and or your zone. So you have the area and then you have the zone.
Mhm.
There's many areas inside of a zone for those that don't know. So they would come to the zone and then you just have a one-on-one interview with your mission president. And I think during that time, I did tell him that I was super unhappy and that my mission trainer was not helping me. So guess what happened? I got split with her and I got sent with my friend from my high school who was the other trainer. So we basically switched. So it was my companion from the MTC and I switched. So
Well,
that
now I feel bad for the the person that she finished the training of.
the funny thing
Good for
is
you, but sad for
they
her.
and they loved each other actually.
Oh.
So it's like she should have been with her the whole time. Like, they were meant to
Yeah.
be. I
If
don't
I feel like the mission president,
know.
there's this saying in the church that the priesthood, when you have priesthood authority over someone, you have the gift of discernment. So
Oh,
you are told that mission presidents have the gift of discernment, meaning they will be able to know which companion to put you with because they make all those decisions. And so to me, that's like, why didn't he discern that that
yeah.
was going to be so harmful for you
Yeah.
and switch it up sooner?
Yeah. Or just like have me go with the other person to begin with, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely.
So after that happened, and then the second transfer came and I got transferred out. So that was good.
That is good. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so transfers basically every 6 weeks, you have the possibility to change where you're living and change who your companion is.
Mhm.
Um, but you don't change every 6 weeks.
Yeah, it just depends, right? It depends on if people are leaving the mission or if newbies are coming in,
Mhm.
or if elders need to leave the area and sisters need to come in or vice versa. So it's the discernment again of the mission president to make all those
Mm-hmm.
decisions. So
Yeah. And I want to share a quote that is common in Mormonism. It says, "Sacrifice brings forth the blessings of heaven." And the idea of sacrifice and suffering is huge on the mission. It's basically seen, the more you suffer, the more you have to sacrifice, the better missionary that you are.
yeah,
And suffering is glorified. And so
but
I
it's
think
not just
that's,
on the mission, right? Like that's
oh
how
yeah,
Mormons live their life. But as a
for sure.
missionary, how
It's
much more
amplified.
intensified? Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And so ultimately, a lot of missionaries,
Hmm.
unfortunately, do not advocate for themselves when they're put in bad situations. When they are suffering, they say, "Oh, this is
It's
part of the mission. I'm supposed to
me.
suffer." Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Or
And
God is
and so
trying
they
to
don't.
teach me something, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
And so unfortunately, missions are filled with hard experiences because ultimately missionaries don't know that they can say no and say, "Nope, I'm not going to let this bad thing happen to me."
yeah.
So do you want to share maybe a few more hard experiences that you had on your mission?
Yeah. And I think every mission, every person that serves has a few of these, right? So the one that I shared before with my trainer was the hardest thing I've probably ever gone through in my life. I'm not going to deny that at all. So these aren't as harmful and or bad, but just different things happen. So a couple of things that happen. So when you become ill or sick on your mission, you have to ask to go be seen at a doctor.
Mhm.
Now, I went in 2004. They were just starting to have mission doctors, but it wasn't like as big as it is now, right? And now
Mhm.
I believe they have therapists on missions, which hello, that would have helped me out even to
Yeah.
just talk about stuff. So I got sick in one of my areas. And funny thing is, when I go into the area, so this companion that I was with was awesome. She was Brazilian and she had already been in the area. So she knew everything. So if you're new coming in, you're transferred into the area, they're supposed to teach you the area and everything.
Mhm.
And probably already have people they're teaching and or they can, look up names and stuff. So we go into the house, and it was like a basement type house. And I go into the study room, and what's on the walls? It's nothing but black mold. And I'm not joking, like covered on the wall.
My
And I was like,
goodness.
"Sister, do you know what that is?" And she's like, "Yeah, like not a big deal, right?"
Oh my gosh.
Okay, we're moving our desks. So we moved them into like where we eat and sleep because you're not supposed to study also in your bedroom, right? That was
Yeah.
a big no. So I was like, okay, well, we're moving the desks into the kitchen. And I shut the door in the study. I said, you're never to go in that room again. It was
That's
so bad. I had
ridiculous.
never seen that before. So we're working, and by this time I was into the mission. I think I was like more than halfway through, having a good time. And then I start getting this cough and I'm coughing and I'm having a hard time breathing. And at night, it's like really, really bad. And all of a sudden, I just am coughing all the time. Super embarrassing, by the way. You're trying to teach someone and you're like
Mhm.
coughing. Imagine now after COVID, how people would be like, oh gosh, get away from
Yeah.
me, right? A different thing back then. But like honestly, like that's rude to bring that into someone's house. But again, we don't have sick days. We can't
Mhm.
take time off unless you're like in the hospital. That was like
Yeah.
a no-no. And I didn't ask to go to the doctor because they would have said no, probably. So we're on P Day and we're playing sports with the elders. And all of a sudden, I get this super sharp pain in the back of my back, like my upper back, and I'm coughing and it's like hurting so bad and I'm like
Mhm.
crying, it hurts. And my mission companion comes over and the elders come over and they're like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I can't breathe. I hurt. I'm not speaking Portuguese anymore because it hurt that bad. I could not
Yeah.
think in that language. So good thing that there was a member that was also playing with us. I think we were playing frisbee in the field or something. And so he had a car, so he took me and my companion to the hospital. We did not even ask permission. So I was
Good.
like, oh my goodness, we're gonna get in trouble though, right? Like that was a thought. It's so bad.
Yeah.
So we
Don't give
go
them a
in.
chance to say no. Just go to the doctor.
So in Brazil though, they have free hospitals, right?
Okay.
So that's one thing that they had there that we don't have here. So they took me to one in the center of town, and they checked me in. And of course, you just wait in the lobby for a while, and all while waiting, I'm coughing and I'm hacking up a lung, and I'm in this unbelievably sharp pain.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, "Oh, sorry, we can't see you," after I've been waiting there for like 3 hours. So I was like, fine. So then they take me back to home. And that night, I started coughing even more. That my companion was scared. And we actually lived below a member's home. So she ran upstairs, got the member, and said, Sister Tabby needs to go to the hospital right now. There's something really wrong with her. So they rushed me
I'm glad
over.
you had a good companion.
It was awesome. Yeah. So they rushed me over to a different hospital, and it is pouring rain. Like we're talking like a torrential downpour, right? So we're going through, and all I remember is just like, please God, just like kill me. Like I was in that much pain. So they take me in, and
I've
this
been there in labor. I was like, I want to
oh,
die.
oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, so the free hospital is very interesting. It was like a warehouse, right? So imagine
Okay.
a giant warehouse, and then there's like, do you remember the like boards that are put that are kind of like a rolling wall that have like felt on one side and like a
Oh, yeah,
chalkboard
yeah,
on the
yeah.
other?
Yeah.
So imagine that those are like the makeshift walls for these
Oh
waiting
my
areas,
goodness.
like just folding chairs, like metal folding chairs. So it was
Wow.
like labor and delivery, like this,
Wow. That's
and then
intense.
the emergency was all the way in the back. So we had to walk all the way back there. And then the doctors would not let my companion with me. And
That's
that
a
scared
big,
me to death.
scary no-no.
But I'm like, okay, maybe it's all right because I'm in the hospital. And I didn't really care. I was like, just like make this better. So
Yeah.
they took me in the back, and I'm sitting there, and they get my vitals and everything. They're like, just wait here. We're kind of busy. The storm's going on. And then a scary thing happens is they bring in this girl, and I swear she's like hopped up on all kinds of drugs. And she's like, there's like 10 of them like holding her arms, and they strap her down in the bed
Wow.
next to me. And I'm like,
Uh,
and I'm just like, oh, I hope she doesn't get out and kill me. Like maybe she's a crazy lady. So,
uh-huh.
and she was like a teenager, and she's just like, and then they like give her something, so she like passes out, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm with like the crazies. They put me in with the crazies.
Oh no.
So, so I'm waiting there, and then all of a sudden, giant lightning hits the building,
Mm.
power goes out, right? It takes a minute, the generators come on, and I'm like scared because I'm like, it's pitch black, and there's this crazy lady next to me.
Yeah.
Like, but what if she wakes up? Um, so not only was I like in pain, I was worried about her. So the nurse comes in, she goes, I'm sorry, our generator isn't strong enough to run our x-ray machine. So you have to go home. So I'm like,
Oh my goodness.
okay. So again, I go home, and thank goodness that my mission companion had called the mission president and said, hey, Sister Tabby is not doing well and she needs to go to hospital. And then, the member had a telephone, so they were able to call him again. Um, so the next day, they take me to a nice hospital, like
That's
an
good.
American style hospital, right? And the doctor spoke English. It was amazing. So they get x-rays and everything. And the guy says, look, you have bronchitis. It's really
Mm.
bad. And he goes, look, in your x-ray, see that little crack? You fractured a rib.
Oh my goodness.
Coughing so hard, I guess I fractured a rib. And that was horrible. And guess how
That
many days off I had?
I don't want to.
2 days off. They gave me
Oh,
2 days. So I slept
that's
in one member's house one day, and I slept in another member's house the other day, and then I had to go back to work.
wow. My parents recently got into a car accident and they cracked ribs. And it took weeks before
Mhm.
they could breathe deeply and do normal activities again. So I can't imagine after 2 days
Yeah,
having
and
to
I was
go
still
back.
coughing, it's not like that cough goes
Were you
away.
still living with the black mold?
I did, but I got transferred out the next
Oh
transfer,
my
so I
gosh.
felt bad for my mission companion, but I told her, I said, you need to find, and I told the mission president too. I said, you need
Good,
to change, you need to move those
because
sisters.
that's crazy.
But I have no idea what happened, so I don't know. They could still be there today. I have no idea.
Wow. I hope not, but honestly, I would believe that. I
Mhm.
know that so many people in my mission also had really, really bad living conditions. I never heard of black mold, though. That's definitely the worst that I've
Yeah,
heard.
it scared the crap out of me. I was like, oh, anyway, so yeah. So the other story that I wanted to share with you guys about an injury, I guess, is in Brazil. I don't know if where you served, we were not supposed to drink the tap water out of the tap
Okay.
because there's contaminants. Like who knows what's in there, right? They're not purified like it is here. So
Mhm.
they always told us either get a water bottle from the store or like those big jugs that you have at like offices, like the big
Mhm.
blue ones. So everybody would have those in their houses, and they drive by in their truck with a loudspeaker on the back of their pickup truck, like an old Ford Ranger or something, and some guy would have a microphone and be like, "Hey, we have the water. Who wants the water?" So you just go out of your gate in the garage and be like, "I want one," and then you pay them, and they come switch them out. So it's kind of interesting, but they did that with propane too, and then
Oh, wow.
like fruits and vegetables, and then some bread. So very interesting.
Yeah.
We definitely don't do that here in America.
No, but sounds kinda nice, actually.
Yeah. Oh, the bread was fantastic. If you ever have the opportunity to go to a Brazilian bakery in Brazil, mwah, the best bread I've ever had in my life. And I've been to Paris, France, so that's saying something.
The bread in where I served in Chile is also
Oh,
really good.
yeah, I dream about that. So anyway, we were walking around. I was in one of the hottest areas in my mission, dead of summer, so hot. We were dying, and I think one of us had to use the bathroom. So, there's no public restrooms anywhere.
Mhm.
So we just went to a member's house. We knocked on the door and we said, hey, Irma. So the name sister, which okay, so when you're a member of the church, we call each other sister and brother. Do you want to explain that a little bit?
Yeah, no, once you become, like, an adult, people just basically call you sister last name or brother last name, and so it kinda makes it feel a bit old-fashioned, I guess, when you go to if you're not expecting it. It's definitely,
And
interesting,
maybe
but
it's
yeah.
that like we're one family.
Yeah.
I don't know. So but it was interesting because they called, the elders, and we called like Irma and Irmão is brother and sister in Portuguese. And so we would say, hey, Irma, Luisa, or something. But sisters were called sisteres. So we are still sisters. So it's kind of
Interesting.
different. Yeah, it wasn't like Irma. So anyway, so we knocked on the door and we are like, hey, I'm so sorry to bother you. But can we come in and use your bathroom? And I think that the members were used to that
Yeah.
because, you know, uh, yeah, it's not like we could just go to a gas station and go use the bathroom.
Yeah.
But so anyway, and it was so hot. They were like, "Oh, do you sisters want some water?" And we're like, "Oh, yes, that would be fantastic." So they give us our cups of water, and it's very cold because they have these like tin cups. I don't know if you had those. They're like
No.
completely made of tin. They're very small. You can tell they're like handmade because there's all these like rough
Little
things
dents.
like where you hammered it or something. Super awesome. So we drink the water, and it was lovely, right? Because it was such a hot day.
Mhm.
And then we said, okay, well, can we share a message? Because wherever you go, you're supposed to share
Yeah.
a message. So of course they let us do that. We're sharing a message, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna throw up. So I
Oh,
said, I'm so
no.
sorry, I need to use your bathroom. So I run in, I throw up in their toilet. Of course, I'm
Ugh.
embarrassed, like so embarrassed. Because I don't know, like, at least it wasn't a perfect stranger that we were at
Yeah,
their house,
that's
you
true.
know? So I'm throwing up, and then they knock on the door and they're like, "Sister, are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm not okay." So I
Oh my
throw up
gosh.
again. Then my companion comes in and she's like, "Let's take you home." And they didn't have a car, so we had to walk home. And we were
Yeah.
quite far from it. And there's no taxis, there's no buses. We just had to walk home. And it was so hot. And guess what? I was throwing up all the way
Oh
home.
my gosh.
And then, so we get home, and she puts me in bed. And we had just moved locations. So, like, our beds didn't have any frames. We just had the mattresses on the
Uh,
floor. So, it was fine for what it was. So I'm laying on the floor, and then she helps me get my pajamas on, and I'm like going back and forth to the bathroom to throw up. And I'm throwing up and I'm throwing up. Guess how many times I threw up that night?
ooh, how many?
23 times. Now, the
Wow.
reason why I know this is because one of the rules of the mission is to count these things so that you can call the mission president's wife,
Okay.
because she's like the mother of the mission. You tell her what's wrong with you, and then they decide if you can go to the hospital or, whatever. So we called her the next day, and she's like, "Oh, just have the elders come over and give you a priesthood blessing and take the day off."
That's awesome.
Yeah. So thank goodness it passed. I think it was just 24 hours. But that was embarrassing to actually have the elders come into our house. Like, that never happens, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
So that was weird, and I'm in my pajamas. So I think I just put a jacket over me or a blanket or something. Because I was like, "Oh, this is so embarrassing." But yeah, like, how weird is it that the mission president's wife was just like, "Oh, just have the elders give you a blessing," like one
Yeah,
of the
no, that's
priestly blessings.
ridiculous. It's like 23 times.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever thrown up 23
yeah.
times in a row ever. Like,
I mean,
that's
I was
insane.
dry heaving, right? Like, I had nothing left in me,
Yeah,
nothing.
no.
But I
And
still
and it's
counted
just
that as one of the times.
it's so irresponsible because, I mean, ultimately, blessings of blessings of healing is what they're called when two men come and put their hands on someone's head and bless them to get better.
And they have this,
And
like, oil, right? It's
yeah, they have
consecrated
consecrated
oil.
olive oil that they put on your head and then they bless you.
Yeah, so what they
And
do, though, is they take this oil beforehand and they give, like, a special blessing on the oil,
mhm.
right? And so the
Yep.
elders and all the men that have this priesthood will carry it around with them.
Yep.
Right? And so if there needs to be like this blessing of healing, they'll put that, they'll have it on their keychain. I've seen that. I've seen
My
some guys that
husband had used to have a little consecrated oil thing on his keychain that he
yeah,
would, use whenever he needed. And but it's just so irresponsible to do like magic instead of sending you to a real doctor because that's essentially what it is. It's like it's
yes.
not there's no documented proof of
It
priesthood
ever helping.
blessings ever benefiting. So
Yeah,
it's
I
just
know. Because they use
and
it
that's
on,
common in the mission
yeah,
is you're expected to get a priesthood blessing first before you even consider going to the doctor.
yeah, exactly. I believe when I did the hospital thing, because I was with all the elders and on that P day, I'm sure someone gave me a blessing.
Yeah,
I don't,
probably.
I blocked that out, I guess. So
Yeah.
yeah, like when you're sick on your mission, guess what? You have very few sick days. You do not have time off. You just have to, like, grin and bear it and just keep going.
Yeah,
So,
and I think that a lot of people don't necessarily understand that,
mhm,
when they decide to go on a mission, and even if they know with their head, they know, "Oh, I won't be able to take time off," they
mhm.
don't really know how incredibly draining it is to never have free time, to
Yeah.
never have a weekend where you get to sleep in, to
Or a
s
holiday off.
consistently be sleep deprived. Every
Yes.
day. You
Yeah.
never get to sleep in, you never get a break for a year and a half if you're a woman or 2
Mhm.
years if you're a man, and that has some serious repercussions to your physical health and to your mental health, and I don't
Mhm.
think people understand that before they decide to go on a mission, and
Yeah.
so yeah.
And, like, holidays, do you have a holiday off? Like, we
No.
had to work on Christmas,
Yeah, we had to work
right?
on Christmas.
I don't think people understand. And you're working all day on Sunday. It is not
Yeah.
the day of rest. Absolutely
Yeah.
not.
Oh, I was horrified when I found that out because I finished my first week in the mission field. I was exhausted.
Yes.
We went home from church to eat lunch, and then I was like, "What? We're going back out? Like, I have to work?"
Yep. That's supposed to be one of the best days of the week, right? Because everybody's home. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, I'm sure you had good experiences as well. I know there's plenty of bad experiences, but do you wanna share any of your, like, favorite memories or your good experiences from serving a mission?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is important just so that people understand that yes, there are hard things and some of the stuff that I went through was horrific and very traumatic
Yeah.
and I still have like PTSD from a lot of this stuff. But there were good things. And my second companion, so when I got transferred out of with my trainer, like goodbye, I don't ever want to see you again. In fact, I never even took a picture with her because it was so traumatic.
Yeah.
So my second companion though was amazing. She was my absolute favorite. We had such a fun time. She was from Utah as well, so we just got along. We had a lot in common. We both sang, so like we would sing all the time, which was fun. But the other cool thing that happened during my second area was sisters got to work in the mission home. We
Oh.
got to do the referrals. It was really
Oh,
cool.
that does sound fun.
Yeah. So I think the mission president knew that I was still super depressed. So he's like, oh, I'll bring her close to me. Right. And
Mhm.
then
Yeah.
give her something else to do. So for me, that like changed my whole mission experience in a lot of ways where I was like, okay, I can do this. And I'm with someone that's awesome and nice. And I consider her more my trainer, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
for sure.
so we just had a blast. And so we would do the referrals. So basically what would happen is if you are a missionary companionship and you're contacting someone on the street and you ask, hey, can we share this mission with anyone or our message with anybody else that you know? They're like, oh, my sister would like that, but she lives like, 200 miles that way. So the missionaries would jot down their information and then they'd turn them into the mission home. So our job was to get those referrals, figure out where these people lived, and then send them to the right mission. So if it was
Mhm.
outside of our mission, like it would go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that was our job. And, it was kind of fun. We got to listen to, Mormon music.
Yeah, and you got to sit down.
Yeah, we sat down a lot and it was cool because our whole wall was our mission. So I got to see like where every area was and
That
then
is cool. Yeah.
so, being as fresh and new as I was, like I got to know the mission areas really well, just on paper, right? But yeah, so I really liked that. I spent my first Christmas there. We had a good time. We went to like 3 dinners on Christmas. Oh, and I'm
Wow.
telling you, like 'cause people kept feeding us. They're like, "Oh, it's Christmas. Come eat with us." So we're just like, "Okay." And I got to talk to my family.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. It really was. So that was a good experience. I really had fun with my second companion. Like I said, she was the bomb. We
Yeah,
would
no,
say
that's awesome. I think it's so important to not only, like, remember the good experiences, but to also recognize, like, missions can be incredibly beneficial experiences for people as well. Like, I know that one of my brothers who served a mission had a great experience, loved it, it helped him become the man he is today. Like,
that.
missions aren't always really, really, really hard,
Yeah,
but I think that, you know, that's good that you could have fun and that you could experience that new culture you were in and
mhm,
learn a new language. And so there are definitely those benefits to serving a Mormon mission, even if there are potential hazards to serving a
exactly.
mission as well.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm just the last thing that I want to share with you is, I mean, as a missionary, you're there to baptize people.
Yeah.
So that's the number one goal is you just want to baptize someone. And, before you leave on your mission, I don't know if you got the same advice or whatever comments. They're like, if you're obedient, there's gonna be one person that you're gonna just love, and they're gonna be like your person, right?
Mhm.
So I was in an area. And it was actually the same area that I got really sick and threw up a lot. But what was cool is I had gotten there, and my mission companion was newer in the mission, but she had already been there, so she like knew all the things.
Okay.
So we had an appointment to go and teach this brother sister.
Mm-hmm.
They were all living together in the same apartment, and there was a friend that was there. So we start teaching them about the Book of Mormon, and they're like, here, let's get out our Book of Mormons. And their friend didn't have one, and I said, oh, do you need a Book of Mormon? I have one for you. And he's like, oh, sure, yeah, this is interesting, I'll hear about this. So I gave him the Book of Mormon. I looked him in the eye and I said, just like what missionaries say, this book will change your life if you
Mm-hmm.
let it. So I gave him the book, we gave our lesson, and then we left. And then when we came back for our follow up, like the brother and sister just weren't interested, but the friend was there, and he goes, I love this book. I read it. Like I read a lot of the book, right? It's a very hard, it's like the Bible, right? For those that don't know,
Yeah.
the book has the same language as the Bible. So it is not
That's the King
easy.
James version of the Bible. It's the same type of old language.
English.
It's
Yeah. I mean, well,
archaic
ours
language.
ours is English, right? So it's
Yeah.
like very, very formal. And Brazilians, they don't speak very formal Portuguese. It's not like Portugal. I believe they
Yeah.
speak like all the very formal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Brazilians don't. So I think it's harder for them to like understand, just like how some of us have a hard time understanding. I know I
Yeah.
did, right? I had to
Yeah,
like
for
really
sure.
think closely about some stuff. So anyway, he's like, sister, I love this. And so we're like,
That's
oh,
every
great.
missionary's dream to have
Right.
someone like actually read the book and like
Yes.
come back and be excited. So I bet
Right.
that was so fun.
So, I mean, and this was basically one of my first people that like me and him, we just like he would say something and then I would like, we were just in tune, right?
Yeah.
And it was cool because like there was some members in that ward that would let us like bring him over to share a lesson. And that's like even better, right? As a
Yeah, no, for
missionary.
sure.
Because then you have the testimony of the members and then they're like befriending him and
Mhm.
everything. So anyway, we teach him everything. He gets baptized. I'm like thrilled. But one of the coolest things was the family that we would bring him to. One of the women who had like 3 kids but wasn't married, they actually ended up getting married. They like
Aw,
fell in love. So
that's amazing. You're a little
oh,
matchmaker.
I know. So like for me, that was special. And his name is Egivaldo, and he was probably my favorite convert to the mission. Just the person that that I wrote in my Mormon mission journal that my whole mission was just for him. It would be worth it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
no. I mean, that's huge as a missionary to have like a convert that you really really vibe with, but especially like something that I really notice on my mission is your ability to love other people just grows exponentially because your entire focus is you want to help people. And so you're not thinking about your own needs, you're thinking about helping other people. And so
yeah.
you love more deeply and more openly than you ever have before. And so that was something that I loved about my mission is it really taught me how to love other people. And
Yeah.
that's so rewarding. And so yeah, that's awesome that you had that experience with.
Yeah. So
Sorry, I'm not gonna try and say his name.
no, it's fine. I was always like, wait, how do you say that? Yeah. So yeah, he was great, and even even though I had these good, awesome experiences, if you were to ask me to like go back and serve a mission again, I would say no in a heartbeat. I would. And like this is sad, but I to this day I still have nightmare dreams about having to go back and serve. And it's like
Same.
I'm married and I have kids and the church is asking me to go back on a mission and I'm like surrounded by all these Brazilians and I'm speaking Portuguese in my dream, which is interesting because I don't practice it anymore, so I've completely forgotten most things. But yeah, like I just have these nightmares and it like wakes me up and I'm in like in a panic just because like yeah, I had good things that happened, but I don't know. I had a lot of terrible things too.
Yeah, no. And that's, from my understanding, is not a unique experience. Like,
Mhm.
I have nightmares still. My
Mm.
husband, my sister, my brother, like everyone I know who served a mission and didn't
Had
have
a
like a
bad.
really good experience the whole
Mhm.
time has nightmares to this day of having to go back because yeah, you lose all autonomy when you are a
Yeah.
missionary. And even if you love it, it is something that you probably never want to do again because
Mhm.
it's hard to lose yourself, to not
Right.
know who you are. And that's what a lot of missionaries experience, is just this complete loss of self. And
Exactly.
so yeah.
Yeah. It's so crazy to just think like when you like we'll talk about this later on, but if you think about it, it's like you're your own person, right? You're in high school, you're doing your thing, you're getting ready to go to
Mhm.
college, and then you're like, oh, just kidding, I'm going to go serve a mission, right? And
Mhm.
for men, it's 2 years, for women, 18 months. So what
Mhm.
happens is they all wear like the same style of clothes. You all have
Mhm.
this plaque, right? Where it says
Yep.
the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and then it's like sister or elder, and then your last name,
Yeah.
right?
You're
So
not
you're all
allowed
the
to be
same.
called by your own name.
Yeah, like members don't know your first name because you're not really allowed to tell them.
Yeah,
Like,
you would be disobedient to
yes,
tell anyone what your name is
like
and let
I
them
would
call you
tell
that.
them when I was leaving the area, but like when I was saying goodbye to some members, but I would not tell
Mhm.
them like, when they come, they'd be like the teenagers would be like, "What's your name?" Be like,
Yeah.
"Sister Tabby,"
Yeah.
you know. So, but right, and then you're taught in the MTC to say everything exactly the same.
Mhm.
So you
To
absolutely.
memorize a lot.
Yes, and you absolutely lose your identity. And what are you told? That you're a representative of Jesus Christ. Like you basically are him as a
Yep.
missionary.
And that's a big burden for a 19 or 21-year-old. Like,
Exactly, right? And so, like the rules, they say keep you safe, you're obedient, you'll have blessings. But like, is it worth it to go out for 18 months? Like I felt towards the end, I was so exhausted and tired. I was
mhm.
just like, whatever. Like, okay, let's keep going, but whatever.
Mhm.
I don't know. I just feel like 18 years, 18 years, 18 months, 2 years is way too long, right?
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
It Everyone experiences so much burnout by the end of their mission that, ugh, it's rough. So then, was I would imagine that burnout, for at least for me, made coming home easier because I know coming home is really hard for a lot of people who have looked forward to being a missionary their entire life, and then suddenly they have to take off the badge, they have to go home, and that's really hard. But the one benefit of burnout is I was so glad to go home. So what was your experience like finishing
Yes.
your mission and going home?
Yeah. So, a kind of funny story. So I left in July. So I was supposed to come home January of 2006. But like school was gonna start, right? The very beginning of January, I was gonna like
Yeah.
miss like a whole month, or maybe it was like 3 weeks. And so, I went up to my mission president and I was like, what should I do? Like, what are my options? And he's like, okay, well, I'll leave it completely up to you. You need to pray to God to see if you need to come home and transfer early or if you need to stay to finish your complete mission. And it's interesting that he used those words, right? Like your complete mission.
Yeah.
But it's not like I had not already been out for so long. It feels like forever that your life's never going to change sometimes. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I go home and I pray, and I just did it during personal study. So my companion was like off to the corner. And, I just prayed. And I think I told myself what to do because I was like burned out. I didn't want to be
Mhm.
there. And, I felt like the spirit had touched me to go home early. But
Mhm.
like looking back in hindsight, I honestly think my feelings were just like, get out of there, you're done.
Yeah, no, for
So
sure.
I told my mission president, I said, yeah, like the Spirit told me I'm supposed to go home. So I came home just before Christmas, was December 14th of 2005.
Nice.
So that was awesome. I got to spend Christmas with my family. So I was only away for one Christmas, which was
That's
awesome.
good. Yeah.
And like the story of, when you come home, so when you leave, right, like you get your, like the men put their hands, right, the priesthood put their hands,
Mhm.
and then they give you this blessing and the mantle of a missionary. And when you come home, I didn't know, like, are they going to put their hands on my head again?
Mhm.
Or like, how does that work? So one of the stake presidency members came over to my home. It was just my main family, my brother, sister, and parents. He sits us down in the living room, and he's like, share a couple of stories with us. So I did. And then he goes, okay, Sister Tabby, I just want to thank you for your service, and you can take off your badge now. And I remember, like, I took my badge off, and I was like overwhelmed with feelings and emotions. And I just like broke down in tears because
Yeah.
literally I felt like this burden lift off of my shoulders, that I was like, I'm free.
Yeah.
And that's kind of sad in some ways to think of it that way, that I'm like free and I can be my own person now.
Yeah.
That is literally how I felt.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
That makes so much sense, you know?
it was good.
I
It was good. I was ready. I was far ready to be done.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome though that you you could let go of that mission service and be like, "I'm done," and not, like, wish to hold on when you couldn't.
Mhm.
Because that was my brother, when he got home, he was like,
I want to be
wish
done
he could serve
now.
another year, like, he
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you talk to people back in the day, and some people were asked to extend for longer,
Mhm.
and some people are glad to do that. Yeah, I was like, send me home and transfer early. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my mission in a nutshell. Of course, we all have tons more stories. So in future podcasts, I'll be sharing more stories when we talk about specific topics. But I'm super glad that I could share with you most of some of the major things that happened on my mission. And next week, we're going to be talking with you, Lauren, on your mission and your mission experiences. And guys, she has like, my mission was hard for me, but like you're gonna go crazy listening to Lauren's stories. So
It's pretty intense.
like so intense. Yeah, yeah. We'll just have to come back and listen to Lauren.
I'll
So
have to speed talk to get through all of it, though.
well, and if you can't share it all, we'll just keep,
Yeah,
bringing up things as we go along.
for
So
sure.
we're super excited that you're with us. Thank you for keeping it on. And just a couple of things. We have done some surveys that we have sent out to people, whoever wanted to take the surveys, and they're very specific to missions. We would like to share this information with you guys going forward in the future. And again, like every episode is going to be a specific topic on the missions. After we talk about our own stories, after Lauren's next week, the third one and so forth will be just all of the things. So we're hoping
Yeah.
to get into the details, right, of everything.
And we'll also be interviewing other people who
Mhm.
have served missions or, you know, been MTC teachers or
Mhm.
maybe didn't serve a mission and how that impacted them. So we have a lot of amazing stories we want to tell. We're so excited to have a platform to share it. We
Absolutely.
think that what we're sharing is really important because ultimately we want every member to have informed consent, to know what they're getting
Mhm.
into before they get into it, because as everyone saw, there can be long-term ramifications from serving a mission like PTSD. And so
Mhm.
that's something we want to have these stories which we believe are important to be heard.
Absolutely. I 110% agree with that. People talk about, like we said at the very beginning, they talk about the awesome things that happen or the very faith promoting stuff, but nobody talks about throwing up 23 times, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just crazy things for sure. But and if you guys want to get in touch with us, please email us at mormonimpossible@gmail.com. And we hope to, if you have ideas for us, or if you know somebody that would like to come on or has a really crazy story, we would love to hear from you guys. So please let us know
Yes.
and comment below as well. So yeah.
Perfect.
All right. Have a good night, guys. Thanks.
Bye-bye.